And here the Torpedo is powering us into Boulogne, just on the north coast of France. Unfortunately, as usual, my cameraman is sleeping at this time. It's about 5:30 in the evening local time, and we're about to leave to go back to England. I'm going to start off with the motor running just directly off the batteries, but then as we get going, I've got all these solar panels set up here around the side and also at the front of the boat, and I'll be attaching those to the batteries so we can get the power from the solar panels going directly to the motor. We're moving along now, and I'm going to start attaching the solar panels. So we're leaving Boulogne harbour here. We've got the Torpedo motor going at full speed. We're going to about 3.5 knots into wind. We've got all these solar panels attached directly to the motor, and they're pointing directly at the sun, so they're recharging the batteries as quickly as the power's going out of the batteries, meaning that actually the batteries aren't losing any power at all, and we're maintaining about 12.7 volts in both of those batteries. We'll put the sails up soon, but because there's not that much wind, we expect to keep the motor going most of the night so that we can get back to England as quickly as possible. Just left Boulogne harbour, just passing the lighthouse there, you can see. And we're going as close to the wind as possible because the wind's coming from the north, and that's where we're trying to go. So we're going along at 4.4 knots on a bearing of about 320 degrees. We're just about to enter a shipping lane though, so we're going to go about. Now normally it's quite difficult to go about in this, but with the Torpedo going it just goes straight round. The sun's just going down over the horizon now, and so I'm going to undo the solar panels so that the tiny little bit of charge that would go back through the solar panels at night when they're not working doesn't happen, and that just means that the batteries have a little bit more power to give to the motor overnight. So the wind's dropped off completely now. The sails are just flapping up there. Unfortunately, the main motor that we put in place has stopped working. So I've put the old Torpedo on, which was the one that's half as powerful. That's whirring away back here, keeping us going at a relatively slow pace. Anyway, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're just gone past Dover now. It's about 4:15 in the morning now. That's the moon. The sun still doesn't show any signs of rising. The wind's picked up a little bit, so that's helping us along. And also I've attached 2 motors now. So I've attached the other small motor to the back here, and that's using the other battery because both of these are 12-volt motors. And so we're moving along fairly nicely now. Okay, it's 5:10 now. And the sun's just starting to rise. You can just see a faint glow on the horizon. It looks like I was a bit optimistic earlier when I thought the wind was picking up, because the sea's glassy smooth now and there's no wind at all. We're still being powered along by our 2 motors back here, our 2 12-volt motors. And we've been fairly good at preserving the power in the batteries, so you can see there 12.1 volts and 11.9 volts. And as soon as that sun comes up, I've got the solar panels positioned ready, and so as soon as that comes up, that'll start putting power back into the batteries and directly into the motors, and we'll crank them up and go a little bit faster. So the sun's just rising now, and that means that we've got a little bit more power in the batteries. The batteries both went down to about 11.9, but now I'm putting most of the power in the front one because that's the more powerful engine, and that went up to 12 volts recently, so I've turned the motor up. It's gone down to 11.7, but I'm sure with the sun rising it's going to be back up to 12 quite soon, and I'll turn it up even further. So it's 5 minutes past 8 now. The sun's come up a little way, which means that I've been able to turn the motors up a bit, and we're now going at 3.5 knots. Fortunately, the tide's just turning as well, so that's going to be going with us soon. We think we should be in Ramsgate in about 3, maybe 4 hours. I'm just looking at the voltages here. We're maintaining 12.1 in that motor and 11.7 in this motor. But this motor here is the more powerful one, so I'm favouring that with most solar panels, and that should be going up to 12 soon as the sun rises a bit more. And I should explain that the reason that these leads are all like this is because I put these panels up overnight, and it was quite dark, it was quite difficult to get everything looking nice, so I really do need a much better way of attaching these panels. And just have a quick look in here, we're at 11.9 volts, that's on the small motor which I've just turned up, and 11.5 volts on the large motor. So I'm going to have to try and position these solar panels so that I get a bit more power out of the solar panels now. So these are the panels at the front. I've been doing quite a good job on these. There's a little bit of shading you see on the corner of this one. So I just move that around a bit, and now that's fully out of the shade. And this one's now being shaded a little bit by the stanchion posts. There, now I've got one of those completely out of the shade. So that should be getting quite a lot more power into the motors now. And you'll have seen I was repositioning this metal hole, and that's so that I could get these back panels to lay a little bit more flat. So we're at 11.9 volts on both batteries, which is perfect. We're going at 3.7 to 4.1 knots at the moment. We're still out of sight of land, although you can just about see the White Cliffs of Dover in the background there. And I think we should be arriving in about 2.5 hours if we keep this speed up, although we're going to have to put another tack in. Right, we're putting a tack now, so that means that we've moved 90 degrees to the left, and these panels that I put in place at the back now are perfectly in the sun. And these motors are whirring away wonderfully, powering us along, particularly this one, which I'm concentrating on because it's the more powerful one. Right, it's 9 o'clock now, and both of my shipmates have woken up. I've positioned 4 panels now on this back bar because the sun's coming right from behind us, and we're going along at 2.9 knots, 3 knots there. 2.2. It's 9:45 now. We've got great sunlight, and we've got so much power coming into the solar panels that both of the engines are at full tilt. We're going at 3.7, 3.9 knots, and both of the batteries are staying nicely charged. 12.2, oh, that one's gone down to 11.7 now, but I'll be able to get that up. And so we're using up as much power as we possibly can. These are the way I've got the panels at the front situated. So those two are in full sun, and these two, neither of these is in full sunlight. That's probably the reason why one of the batteries has gone down to 11.6 volts. So I'll try and get these into the sun now. There, I've moved the panels now, and now 3 of those 4 panels are in good sunlight. So we should be back generating lots of electricity from them. And we're just arriving in Ramsgate now. Still powered largely by the motors, and moving at 3.7, even 3.9 knots. Just entering the inner harbour here, and behind us is the Border Force Patrol. I wonder what he makes of our electric motors.